Hi Marie, how are you today?
I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I am okay. Thank you for coming back to our studios today. This is Kenya Diaspora Media. I'm just gonna check whether we are streaming live because we'll be streaming live on, yes, on YouTube. So I'm gonna just check that we are streaming live, and yes, we are live. I haven't told many of my friends because I was getting set after work, but you are the friend number one that is on the screen. So thank you for being here today. For some of our friends in America, this is lunchtime, and for the Kenyans, they are almost going to sleep. Those are some of my main audience, and then we have other audience in the all over. I mean, in the Middle East, everywhere around the world. So thank you so much, Marie, for turning up again today at a very short notice, and you're looking gorgeous, beautiful, and you have more confidence than last time. I do have the same confidence, similar, I mean, to you. We have built a little bit of our confidence. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So today, Marie, I know this topic, you may not be familiar with what I wanted to bring up, but it will be Marie and Esther just asking each other questions, and hopefully the audience as well can be able to join in. So, Marie, what was it that we were talking about last time? If you don't mind just having an overview of a little bit, if you can remember. But if you don't, I can mention the topic we spoke about last time before we move on to today's topic. It was something to do with is life a joke?
Oh, that's it, yes.
Yes, it was
I
like,
can remember what SPICES stand for, but
oh, well done. Yeah.
as soon as you asked me the question, it went straight out there.
Yeah. What does spices stand for, Marie? You said you do remember that. Try that then before we go on the topic of last week briefly and then today's topic.
Social,
Mm-hmm.
personal,
Mm-hmm.
can't remember I. C is currency.
Yeah.
E is,
I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah.
yeah, it's my fault because I bragged that I could remember it.
Not
And
to worry.
I've been thinking about it all week as well.
All right, that's good. Yeah. So let me help you out a little bit. And with time, as you join me more times, you will find it's so this the big S is the spiritual. We are spiritual beings. That's okay. Yeah. There is a social aspect of it at the end. So the last S is social aspect of life, the way we relate to one another. But I tend to say we are spiritual beings before we become the physical beings, or rather, we are physical beings who have a spiritual sense of us, right? So at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we will be spirits that will go back to the spirit that created us. So spiritual beings having a physical experience, which is the P. And then we do know, we do learn, that is the I, intellect, and it can stand for any knowing, any understanding, anything like that. And then we have the C, which you said currency. Yeah, and I believe the currency of Christians is love, right? The currency for our day to day life is money. So there is that currency. Sometimes I call it commercial, but it doesn't have to just stand for commercial, it can stand for currency. The currency that helps us to relate is love. And then E is for emotions. Yeah, without our emotions, our lives could be, I don't know, we like the happy ones. We don't like the sad ones, but all of them are part of who we are. And we are more conscious of the sad ones more than the happy ones. But again, we've been promised joy and happiness and all that, regardless of the things we go through. And the last one is the social relationships. So without you on the other side, I would be talking to myself. Without the people joining in, we'll be talking to ourselves. So it's very good that we have social relations, we can be able to relate to one another. So I'm going to welcome people in on the Kenya Diaspora Media. Meanwhile, if you could maybe just give us an overview of what we did last week. It was about is life a joke? So if there is
Yes.
anything you can remember from some of the things we were talking about, that will be great. And then I'm going to take the link and share it to some of our friends here so that they can know we are live. Yeah, go ahead, Marie. And you can introduce yourself again for those who do not know you, plus what you do for a living.
Okay, my name's Marie. I'm 64. I've known Esther for I don't know, 10 years, Esther?
More than that? Okay. For the period where we were together, it could be 10. Yeah, we were there. I was there for 9 years, going to 10 at the college where we were working. Yeah. And then I've known you more than that. So because after that, I still know you. Yeah. About 6 years later, I still. So it's 16 almost. Yeah, it's almost 16 years now that we know each other. Yes.
Amazing.
Okay.
So anyway, what you asked me to talk about was you asked me to explain in one of the questions British humour.
Yeah.
And it's funny really because all your SPICES letters, they all intermingled and sort of joined together within each question really. Because we got onto education, we got onto health services, we talked about lack of funding, we talked about
the comedy that you used to watch, Malcolm and what do you
Malcolm
call
and Wide, yes.
There we go. So the comedy, the youth and their jokes when it can be very kind of rough sometimes.
Yeah.
There we go. So today we're going to talk about the heart of a child. And in the heart of a child, I have been having this notion that I should be like a child, right? And
well, we're supposed to be, aren't we?
yeah, and the Bible tells me to be a child of God. And I've tried, Marie. I have sat down on the floor here and reminded myself of the games I used to play when I was at school. So I don't know what type of games you used to play at school when you were about ages between 4 and let's say 12. Would you be able to just give us an overview of some of the British games that children play at that age?
We used to have, because when I was sort of like 4, 5, 6, 7, it was 60s.
Yeah.
And tights, ladies' tights, were only just coming into fashion.
Yeah.
And so ladies like my mum wore stockings.
Yeah.
And we used to get our mum's stockings and put a tennis ball in the end of the stocking.
Okay.
And then we used to do it from stand with our backs against the wall and then do it like that, and then you had to lift the leg up and do it, and you used to have to do all different sorts of body movements with it.
Yeah. Okay. And
another one was you used to get really thick elastic and a great big piece and join it, and then two girls would stand like that facing each other, and the elastic would go at the back of the knees.
Okay.
A third person who was like level 1, level 2, level 3, and again you had to do different things with the elastic by jumping on it, twisting on it, and sort of progressing up through the levels. Yeah. Then there was hopscotch. Yeah. I don't know if you know what that is.
Just describe it for those who may want to have an idea of what it is.
Okay, there used to be 10 boxes that you'd chalk on the playground floor. Yeah. And you'd draw one box and put 1 in it. And then on the top of that would be 2 and 3. And then 4 on its own, then 5 and 6 together, then 7 on its own, then 8 and 9, and then 10. And it used to make about a 6-foot run. And what you had to do, you had to throw a stone to get, say, number 1. Well, then you had to jump over it. Well, you did the first one just jumping, but then you had to do hopping. You had to do it backwards. You had to do it bouncing up and down on the spot and move to, and you progressed along the 10 numbers, trying to do it without touching the lines.
Okay. I think we did a similar thing, but I wasn't a jumpy kind of a child. I never used to like games that involved running or jumping. Yeah, but I think we used to draw boxes as well. and sometimes we would draw box number 1, number 2, and then on the number 3 we would draw a diagonal. So like box number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, it will be like a square that you have drawn 2 diagonal lines. So square, rectangle 1, rectangle 2, and then a square, but in the square you draw diagonal lines, and then another rectangle, and then the last rectangle you divide it into 2. So it's almost like hopscotch. And we would throw a stone in box number 1 and then jump to box number 2. And we'll keep going like that. If you step on the line or if you forget your move, you're out.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't.
Sounds very similar.
Yeah. And then a similar one, we would draw 4 boxes on that side and 4 boxes on this side. And then we'll be pushing a stone along the boxes. Yeah. But if the stone or the disc touch the line, you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another type of a game. But I used to like the ones you sit down and you throw a stone down and you catch and you pick other stones. I don't know what you call that one, but that was my favorite kind of a game. I tried it the other day and I had even put it on Facebook, just reminding myself. Now,
we used to play one with 5 stones sitting on the floor, and you put them in your hands, and you threw them up, but you had to turn your hand over and catch them on the back. And you had to go again through 1 to 10, and then you changed it to fly dobs, and you had to catch them as if you threw them up. Yeah. But then you had to catch them as if you were trying to catch a fly.
I think
you did 1 at a time, then 2 at a time, then 3 at a time.
That's my game. But I don't know how it arrived in Africa, in my little village. I don't know how it arrived there, but that was my favorite. Yes, you over your hand, and then you drop them, and then you start to pick 1, 1, 1, 1, then 2, 3, then yes, 2, 2, 1, then 2, 3, then 3, 2, then 4, then yeah, I remember. Yeah. Anyway, it's very interesting. Can you be able to play those games today? Do you think you can be able to sit on the floor and play those games today? Some of them.
Oh, I can play snobs because I play with my grandson. And then there was marbles. Did you play marbles?
I used to see the boys play the marbles, but I didn't play the marbles. So how did that go?
You drew. Well, no, you needed it in earth, not a lawn, and it needed to be fairly flat. And then somebody would stick the reel in and go round and round and round, walk round and make a hole, like a little pothole. And then you went back so far, and then you used to have a bag of marbles. And you'd throw them, and the one nearest, you either tried to get them in the hole. Or if you didn't, the one nearest the hole was the winner. And then you could play trying to knock your own marbles. Your second go, you threw it so that it hit your first one to go into the hole. It's like bowls, you know, green bowls that women play. Similar to that, really.
Okay. Maybe we should remind ourselves again and start playing these games again. I don't know how much the body can take. My body, my back hurts. Sometimes my knees hurt. They don't want to kneel down. And Marie, I know you have a condition that really gives you a lot of pain sometimes. What do you call this condition? And would you be able maybe to explain to us so that some people may have an understanding and then tell us how you manage that pain before I ask you the questions of childhood and the heart of a child?
Okay. 12 years ago, I tripped over my cat and I fractured my spine. And that's when they found out I'd got osteoporosis, which is thinning of the bones. It stopped me working. I really struggled, and then last year I fell again and I fractured my spine in a different place, but I also fractured my pelvis. And unfortunately I'm allergic to morphine, so I can only have basic painkillers, so a lot of the time I'm in constant pain.
Okay, and there's another one it's called fibromyalgia or something. Would you be able to explain to us what that one is? Yeah.
This country doesn't recognise it. You're very fortunate if your GP knows about it, but usually it's brought on by the stress of major trauma in your life, like a car accident or losing a limb, or like me, having my life turned upside down because I couldn't walk very well and fracturing the spine and things like that. And basically your brain loses control.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I touched something, Marie. Yeah. Sorry, Marie. I touched you. Yeah, sorry. We went on mute for a moment. I touched something. So repeat again for us, if you don't mind, about the condition.
Right. It's called fibromyalgia, and it's brought on by when someone's had great trauma in their life, like a car accident, even losing a loved one, losing a limb, something that shakes the world, and your body, your brain loses control of your body. So you're in a temperature thermometer. It doesn't. You can be sweating 1 minute and freezing cold the next. At times it can be like really bad flu. The worst I've found is, because I do a lot of thinking, there's a side effect called fibrofog, which means your thinking's not clear, your speech is not clear. Sometimes I can sound and look as if I've had a stroke. But the other thing is your muscles and bones all hurt at the same time. And it's a pain like, well, I wouldn't wish it on the worst enemy.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know what to say. You know, when people are in pain, sometimes I just don't know what to say. But I would say, however you manage it, keep on managing it, because we need you to be smiling. Yeah, like you're doing now. We need you to keep on smiling. Now, let me bring you to the topic of the day. And I was asking about that part because I know myself, I can't get on the floor as often or as I used to because of pains here and here and here. Maybe I'm too heavy or we are growing older. Yeah, you never know. So what is your best childhood memory? And you can ask me the same questions. These are just impromptu questions. So I haven't planned. So if you want to bounce the question back to me, you can do. So what is your best childhood memory?
I've got so many.
What's the best one, or a couple of them? Yeah.
I grew up in a very loving household, and my dad's mum only lived across the road, so we were very close. My grandma and granddad, for saying they were Victorians, were very, very, very loving, and just Christmas. My mum and my grandma made Christmas very, very special. We didn't have a lot of money, but in fact we were quite poor. But they made it special. I think my dad used to go out a lot because he was on the council, he was governor of schools, and he used to have to go out a lot at night time. And our best memories, I suppose, is when all three of us, because I'm the only one, sat in together at night time, and we were all together. And it was I just loved being in both my mum and dad's company. We didn't have to speak to one another. I mean, my dad taught me to read. I could read at 3.
Wow.
And, you know, we could all be sitting. My mum would be knitting, my dad would be reading, and I'd probably be reading or watching the telly, because there wasn't a lot on in those days. It was all black and white. But it was just that feeling of being all together.
Yeah. Okay.
And going on holiday with them. We we didn't have many holidays, not due to lack of funds or anything like that, but due to the fact that both my grandparents, my dad's mum and dad, were invalids, and my mum and dad nursed them. And as I got older, their conditions got worse, and mum and dad couldn't leave them for a week because there was nobody else to look after them. So they gave up their holidays to look after my grandparents, basically. But I didn't resent it because I didn't miss it, you know what I mean? Because we only used to go once a year, so and I just used to. And then when I was sort of like 12, 13, a number of close friends' parents would ask my mum and dad if I could go on holiday with them, and so I got my holidays. So I suppose that's another good memory as well, going on holiday with friends' parents. Lots of I used to go to dancing classes, and I used to love that on a Saturday morning, ballroom dancing.
Okay.
And I used to get medals and all sorts of things. Winning this sounds a bit big-headed.
Yeah.
Every year we had a competition at school, for the best handwriting competition. It was run by Cadbury's.
Okay.
And, I won it 3 years on the trot, and being presented with my chance, no. Getting the certificate and a really nice ink pen, because you had to write it all in ink pen.
Okay.
And a big box of Cadbury's chocolates. It was great.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you're talking about Christmas, and I think my best memories are for Christmas. You'll be telling us what you eat at Christmas, because mine, the best part of Christmas was the eating. So in Kenya, where I come from, we are just right at the equator. So at Christmas, December, the sun is it's hot. So we do the summer like barbecues. You know that you do barbecues here in June. We used to do barbecues, and that's when you would find roast meat, you would find a lot of food. Any food that you've not eaten throughout the year, it will be just piled in. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Giant! Get down! I'm not taking any notes. So just a minute.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So we...
I'll just let him out.
That's okay. That's okay. So we are talking about the heart of a child, and one of the things we are trying to remember now is about our childhood memories and some of the things that we have done as children, and thinking about through them and just talking about them, because when you think of the heart of a child, children are so free. They're just so free, you know. Yeah, you don't worry. You're not concerned about the bills. You're not concerned about anything. So I'm talking about the heart of a child, Marie. So I'm saying when you're a child, there's so many things you don't worry about. You know, like those Christmas presents, Christmas time. You didn't have to worry who will cook or who will do what. Your job was to be there and just take part in whatever that was happening. The same with us. We knew at Christmas there will be food, plenty of food. On top of that, we used to have a new dress, maybe a new pair of shoes. I don't know about the English culture with buying presents, but instead of us having wrapped presents, we would have our dress and we would have the shoes and anything else that is new, maybe a new cardigan. Even if it was hot in December, if they bought you a nice cardigan, you'll be putting it on that particular day as you go to Sunday service in the morning, and then you come back and eat. And then on the Christmas Eve, we would, prepare. You know, women would fetch water because we didn't have running water. So they would make sure that they've gone to the river, brought as much water as they could bring, make sure that nobody is going to be going to the river on that particular day. There is sufficient water. And even the next day, because on the 26th, it's Boxing Day. So nobody wants to be working. So food, the clothes, the shoes, and then visitors. That was fantastic for us for Christmas. And you said about going holidays. Okay, the holidays we went to would be to our grandma's or to our auntie's place. But we didn't go on holidays like you would say, I'm going to Spain. So we would go to another town where you would be visiting relatives. Yeah. So we were asking about what is your best memories, and you were just explaining about your memories. But before we move on to the next question, what is Christmas like in the UK? An English type of a Christmas. What is on the plate? I know it's not Christmas yet. Yeah, what type of food do you kind of serve? I know in Kenya, chapati, that is the flat bread, must be there. And then meat must be there somehow. Rice can also be there. Vegetables, not so much. We don't want to eat too much vegetables. We've been eating them throughout the year. Yeah. And then we needed drinks like Coca-Cola, soda. Yeah, we just used to call it soda. And bread on top of it. Yeah, somehow. And cake if it was available. Yeah. So what is on an English plate at Christmas?
For the vast majority of people these days, it's turkey, and then we have they're called devil on horseback, and it's little tiny sausages wrapped in bacon and cooked in the oven.
Are they not the pigs in a blanket? Are they the same? Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Depends which part.
What did you call them? The devil what?
Devil on horseback.
Oh dear, okay. Devil on horseback, pigs in a blanket, okay. What else?
Stuffing.
Stuffing.
Sage and onion stuffing, all mixed up with water, and then it's spread out onto a flat tray and baked. Brussels sprouts.
Do you like Brussels sprouts? Do you like Brussels sprouts? All right, okay.
Always have. Carrots, peas, roast parsnips. Some people will serve Yorkshire puddings, but we don't.
Okay.
Because Yorkshire puddings are for beef.
Oh,
right. We're a bit traditional like that. And then you can have bread sauce, cranberry sauce, gravy, roast and mashed potatoes, or roast mashed and new potatoes.
Yeah.
And then for pudding, it'll be Christmas pudding or, well, some sort of dessert. A lot of people are steering away now from Christmas pudding, but for me, it's one of the best bits of Christmas.
And when you say Christmas pudding, when I have looked at a Christmas pudding, what type of a cake is that? Is that just fruit that is being pressed together until it becomes like a cake? Do they bake it?
People start making it about October. There's all types of dried fruit in it, and they get a big, the big baking bowls like that, and they'll fill about that much with the dried fruit, and then they'll pour brandy in, or beer, or wine, sherry, anything like that, and they'll keep stirring it, and then in November they'll add the flour and the butter and the eggs and stir it all up, and then they put it in a bowl, like a pudding bowl, if you know what I mean, a smaller bowl than your mixing bowl. Wrap it in a tea towel, tie it up with string, and then boil it for I don't know how many hours, about 6 hours, and then when it comes out, it's turned upside down. More brandy is poured over it, which is set fire to, and then it's served with, it can be served with cream, it can be served with flavoured cream, custard, white sauce, chocolate sauce, you name it, you can have anything, anything on it. A lot of people tend to go for desserts, like cheesecakes and stuff like that nowadays.
Okay. Imagine I didn't know how the Christmas pudding is done. So I may go Googling now after this just to see the whole process now in detail. You never know. One day I could challenge myself to make it. You never know. I'm not a fan of it, or rather I don't like it that much, but my husband does. So he buys brandy sauce. Is it called brandy sauce? Yeah, I normally see my mother-in-law bring brandy sauce for the Christmas pudding and the Christmas pudding. Now we can buy them from the shops. We don't have to make them, you see.
No, that's good. Then you can pop them in the microwave as well.
There we go. So those are very good childhood memories. And with good memories sometimes do come bad memories. Did you have, or do you have any bad memories of childhood? And I'll be asking the audience these questions as well. If they have these childhood good and bad memories, what is the worst childhood memory you can remember? If it brings some hurt feelings, you don't have to share it. But if it's a childhood memory that you overcame, then that's okay.
Yeah. One hot summer, I was going to my friend's house. I was about 7 or 8. And do you know what two-wheeled scooters are? They've got like a long handle at the front with little handlebar, and then there's a long platform with there's 2 wheels on.
Yeah.
You scoot along, or you freewheel if you're going downhill. Well, there's a big hill in the village where I used to live as a child, and I was going down and I was going too fast and I couldn't control it, and there was a bend and the scooter threw me off, and it just relaid the tarmac and it wasn't dry, and I skidded through it on my knee, and I took all the skin right down to the bone off my shin, and I lay there screaming for ages because obviously the hot tarmac was burning me as well.
Yeah.
Somebody saw me and ran to fetch my mum and dad, and my dad was home at that time, and he ran down the hill and picked me up. Took one look at it because we haven't got a car, and the nearest hospital was about, well, it was Leicester, so 16 mile away. And I can remember him laying me on the kitchen table, and he got the old lady in from next door. Her and my mum held my head and feet, and he put a peg in my mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And to clean the tarmac off, he poured white spirits all over it and cleaned the tarmac off, and oh boy, it stung a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't have any stitches.
Yeah.
And I had it wrapped up for weeks and weeks and weeks. I probably should have had stitch, but there's hardly a scar there. Another one is a neighbour of my grandma's dog biting me. That was pretty scary. Having my tonsils out, that was pretty scary because I've never been away from home before.
Yeah.
Being beat up at school, where I lived, the village where I lived, the next village had a big estate built for when the pits up north closed down, and a lot of families moved into this estate, and they had to come and share our primary school. And they hated us. They really, really hated us. I think it was because they'd been dragged away from the homes they knew, the friends they knew and everything. And one night I was walking home from school, and 4 of the girls jumped on me and beat me up and broke my arm.
Oh dear. Oh, yeah. So memories of the scooter. I remember learning how to push bike at 13. But I was learning how to push bike. You're bringing these memories. I was learning to push bike on my brother's bicycle, a big man's bicycle, the handlebar very high. Like you, I was going down the hill, and I didn't know how. I had tiny hands, so I didn't know how to hold on to the brakes. Yeah, and all of a sudden, of course, the bike just started rolling. So the only way I could stop is to go against a fence, a barbed wire fence, to stop. And that's how I did it. But by that time, I can tell you, yeah, I was sitting on the bar. Yeah. And it's on a rough road, a village kind of rough road. It was really painful. That's one of them. And then you bringing memories of fighting at school. I don't think I was involved in fighting at school. But one of my friends one time, she had kind of almost bullied me. So I'm bringing things that can happen in the UK and they can happen in Africa. So she would take my school bag and then she would kind of throw it off, right? And I would go and pick it and then she would do it again. So one moment I was so annoyed and I found a piece of glass and I was saying, I'm going to just go and slash her now. But instead of me slashing her, she took the glass and cut me. So that was the first war with a friend at school, and I didn't do it again. And the other memory you had said is about yeah, the pain. You know, when you had a cut on your, if you had an injury, or they would put salt. Yeah, they would wash that with salt. So I don't know where they got this technology of washing wounds with salt. I don't know. And one last bad memory is that we were not aware of carbon monoxide. So we would be sitting on cold days, nights, we would be sitting next to a charcoal burner, yeah, and it would be burning red hot. And then you close every space of the windows, any space that could be bringing in some cold. But what we didn't know, it's the carbon monoxide that was making us so sleepy. So I had a lot of scars on my knees. And every time I would be told off by my grandma or by my auntie, Esther, go and sleep, you're sleepy. But even them, they were sleepy. But why were we sleepy? It's because the house was full of carbon monoxide. Thankfully, it was small charcoal burners, so they would burn. And then, of course, fresh air would seep in back into the house. By that time, you've slept and you're thinking you're sleeping very heavily. But you could die. Some people have died out of carbon monoxide. The only thing I have now, I still have the scars on my knees out of just dozing off next to a charcoal burner. Good questions. So, at school, what was your favorite year or class? I know last time you did tell me that like you are very good at school, but in those years, what was your favorite year? You can tell me about the primary school because that's where sometimes our very childhood memories are at.
History and English.
Okay.
I used to love writing stories. I still do. I love writing stories. I would like to write a book when I get my head round to it, but I've got that much going round in my head at the moment about what to write about. I can't choose. But I loved history. Yeah, history and English.
Is there any particular historical period that was your favorite? I like the Victorian history kind of. And I feel like, you know, if I had believed in the, what do you call it when people go back, regression and all that, I would have said I lived in the Victorian times because I like watching those, but I don't believe in regression. But when I watch those Victorian time movies, I do like that. So what part of history is your favorite?
How long you got?
Just part of it, yeah.
I like the Roman era.
Okay.
I liked, oh dear, like the ones with knights in armour.
Okay.
The Tudors.
Okay.
Georgian. Not so much Victorian, because Victorian makes me cross because they started a lot of our oh, you can't do that society.
Okay.
Whereas before anything went, the Victorians were very straight-laced, and the annoying thing is that they weren't behind closed doors.
Okay.
You know, and it was a cruel time for the working class as well.
Oh, I think it was one of the worst.
I think it was one of the worst times to be alive if you were working class.
When did the Industrial Revolution start then? Was it in the Victorian times or the Georgian times?
When did what start?
You know the revolution, the industrial revolution.
Oh, Victorian.
It's the Victorian time. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think the Industrial Revolution was good or bad? Do you think, when you think about it?
Well, obviously it was good because
okay.
It made clothes better and you know, transport better. But again, because I'm very much a socialist, because I believe it works well with the Christian faith. Again, if you're working class, then, you know, children down chimneys, going up chimneys to clean them, children down the pits, children in quarries. No, women down the pits, which happen around here.
Yeah.
And no health service, or there were doctors, but you could only have them if you were rich.
Okay.
Yeah, Victorians it was a hard period of time.
When I'm asking you this, it's because you're bringing out some of the parts of history that my African counterparts may not have.
Yeah.
So when you tell people that children were sent down the chimneys to clean the soot, and if you say they were sent down the machines were running the cotton mills, and they were sent under the cotton mills to sweep, and they were sent down the pit. Yeah, all these things, you know, sometimes we just imagine the West was always as good as it is. When you talk about there were no doctors before 1942, I believe that's when the NHS was born. Was it 1942 or 48? NHS 45, around that period until 48. That's when I think it was settled down. I think it was proposed in 1942, just around that period of time, when some of the doctors were fighting against it because they knew it will be a free health service and therefore they wouldn't be earning money on this side. Okay, some of the African countries are still struggling with that. We do have government funded hospitals, but they're not as effective as the private hospitals. So you would find a doctor with the private hospital, he still works for the government. So when you go to the government hospital, they would refer you to the private practice. It happens. So we are still developing. Some people say we are 50 years behind. But it's the child sometimes that normally suffers, because you can see a child that is between the ages of 0 to 5, yeah, they are very kind of at risk of death. And then when they are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you're sending them down the pits, child labor and all that. So those things happened here in the West, but they're no longer there. But what do you think is happening now? Is the child still having enough time to play as we speak? Do you think it has reversed, that they no longer now cannot go outdoors to play? They can no longer go to work and meet other friends. What do you think is happening to the child right now?
I think they've got too much time on their hands. I think they've got too much time on their hands.
So, for example, how do you occupy your grandchild? Or how is he occupied with time? What does he do in his free time?
He's a big reader. Don't know where he gets it from.
I think I know. I think I know, yeah.
And he plays with his cars.
Okay.
He's not old enough to go to any clubs or anything yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't start wanting to go to football.
Okay. So, Marie, what I'm trying to bring out is taking us back to that childhood, right? And sometimes comparing our past and then with our current children, how they could be experiencing life. Yes, in the Victorian times, like you've said, children were made to work. Now, at the moment, I think sometimes we cotton wool our children too much. And if they go to play, they're playing in set conditions. You know, like we take them to the play school. They can no longer play outside of the street here. We can't just tell them now, go to the park and play, because of all the other fears that we have. I don't know whether that's your experience, but that's what I tend to think is happening. So do you think we are more scared now than we were in the past? Do you think we are in better times now than we were in the past? Or what would you comment on that about play?
I think people are too scared. I think the media's done a real PR job on people's minds with the big bag bogeyman waiting to leap on your child. I was talking to a policeman once last year. No, it's 3 years now. 3 years ago. And he said the streets are just as safe as they were like when I was a kid 50 years ago. It's just the media that makes it all out, and people's anxiety and stress. Because they believe, like we said last week, they believe everything that's told them on the television or in the newspapers. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't think for themselves.
So you think maybe this thing, the scare, the fear that we have, it's because of the media, and because maybe we become too kind of conditioned into thinking that there could be something that could happen to our children. But then when you listen to the case like the one that was in America now this week, I don't know whether you've caught on the news that somebody went, I don't have all the details, but I hear somebody went into a school and they had a gun and they shot people and they killed people.
15. And he was only 18 and he got a semi-automatic rifle.
He's a child by UK standards.
Yeah, and he can't buy alcohol in the United States, but he can buy as many guns as he wants to.
So,
you know, I'm getting on my soapbox now. I get so cross with America because they spout their freedom and everything, but at what cost? You know, what is it? The Second Amendment that entitles them to have a gun, and they'll defend it.
Yeah.
And yet, I find it absolutely horrific. I didn't realise till last year that most American primary schools, junior schools, have all got these safe rooms now built into their classrooms, and they have to do a drill if the gunman strikes at their classroom, and they can get inside this safe room within 2 minutes, and the teacher can slam the door shut and keep all the children safe. And I've got an American friend, and I was saying to her, well, you know, what do the children think? And she says, well, I asked my grandson about it. She's a Christian as well. And he says, just part of life, Grandma, isn't it? And I think, you know, they've got more chance of being shot by someone going mad with a gun than they have of being assaulted or kidnapped, or, you know, it beggars belief, really.
So what do we do to go back to that heart of a child? So for you, if someone was to ask you, what is a child like? What is it to be like a child? What are some of the characters of a child that we can kind of copy and go back there so that these things are not happening the way they are happening?
Well, it's I very often think about this, and I very often pray about it, and basically, I mean, I'm all for women's rights, providing they're not. I've always said my rights are all right, providing I'm not imposing on somebody else's rights. How can I have rights that stop somebody else having something that they need? Do you know what I mean? And I think breakdown of families.
Yeah.
Breakdown of families. I mean, I got out of a bad marriage after 27 years. But I did it. My son was grown, and I knew that if I carried on, I'd be in a mental institution, because it was just such mental. What you call it? He never hit me. It didn't do any physical harm. It was just mental harm.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't take it anymore. But another thing is, I think just like it's so easy to get married, people don't court. I'm being ever so old-fashioned, Esther. People don't court these days, do they? You know, they meet somebody at a nightclub or online or something. They start seeing each other. They go out for meals. The next thing, they're moving in with one another. Then they're buying a house. And then they break up. But they've got a house and they've probably got a dog or a cat. What happens to the house and the dog and the cat? This is before they've even started thinking about babies. And then they wonder why the housing market dips, why there's so many people with negative equity. No, nobody seems to have a bottom. Did you have bottom drawers in Kenya?
What do you mean, like?
It was an old, you know, dressing tables that you have in your bedroom. Yeah. Well, when you started courting and become engaged, you took all your clothes out your bottom drawer. Okay. And over a length of time, you bought things like cutlery or a pepper and salt thing. Okay. Towels, pillowcases, and you put them in your bottom drawer. So there's none of that these days. There's not the excitement of you know, even weddings themselves have become this great big festival, but it's not a festival of love. It's not. It's got to be the most dynamic, the most. We've got magicians, or we've got acrobats, or you know, it's a blinking roundabout of just spending money.
It can go on the showy side, or it can go on the careless side, where there's no courtship. People just stay, and then after they have given up on each other, they go. Or it can be extravagant, and then still, even with the extravagance, when they're tired of each other again, the divorce cases are too costly, too expensive, and all that. Prenuptials now, sometimes for the rich ones, they can be signing those and saying, okay, if we divorce, so they're marrying, but they're planning to divorce. If we divorce, this is mine, and this is mine, this is not yours, this is not yours. These things happen. And that's why we need to go back to the heart of a child. I'm thinking of those days that you told me, the things you enjoyed as a child, the things that you liked as a child, the way we lived at Christmas, you know, carefree, you know, very innocent. Even the days, the Victorian times, they sent children to do these jobs. It was done innocently. This child didn't care whether they would fall down or what. But at the end of the day, that innocence can be good, but at the same time, it can be abused, you see. It can be misused by the adults, the grown-ups that are supposed to take care of this very person. I would like to go back to the childhood and stay there. Yeah, not to be childish, because of course we are mature, but to grow up again with a caring parent. Because I think now I am a caring parent. So I would like to go back there and mother myself now. And that's where I want to be right now. So most of the time I feel like, Esther, become a child again and be the better mother for yourself. And in the process also help others to become better. It's hard. It's very difficult work. My child has turned out okay. But sometimes when you look at other people's children, you think, how can I be able to help them to really to come to a place of true freedom, right? Where they know, they're conscious, they're self-aware of who they are. First of all, a child of God, because that's easier. Now, once you know who you are as a child of God, then you can be able to grow up now, in a better position. I don't know whether I'm talking things that could be too difficult. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know what it's like in Kenya now, but our children aren't innocent for very long at all now, because of the television, because of what they hear the parents talking about. I mean, I think because I was the only one, my mum and dad did include me in some conversations, not all of them. I can always remember when my uncle got divorced, my dad's brother, and I knew they were always talking about it, because as soon as I walked in the room, they'd shut up. But in the 60s, it just wasn't done to talk about divorce in front of a child. And it was looked on as, not very good. Not very socially apt, really. And you didn't tell anybody you were divorced in those days. But no, I don't think... it's like this now. They're on about bringing in these lessons, telling children about transgender and stuff at an early age. Well, why do they need to know? I've got 2 gay cousins, which, as a Christian, I've really struggled. Till in the end, I've said, look, Lord, it's not for me to judge. It's it can be you that judges. I'm just going to love them like all my other cousins, and that's what I do. I've got a guy who's a really big friend, but he's now a lady because he was born with an extra female chromosome to the male, so he's always been a girl in a man's body. So he's having the hormone replacement and everything. I still wonder whether prayer could have sorted it, but there you go. This is where I get, and in the end I just say, Lord, I'm just giving it to you because I can't, my mind's not big enough to sort these things out. It's up to you. But I just don't think children should be told about it at an early age, because I think that's why we're seeing more of it, because kids are experimenting, as they do. They push against boundaries. We've all done it. See how far we can push mum and dads to see how far they'll go before they blow. And it's a natural thing. All these people that claim we're nothing better than animals, you see it in animals. They torment the parents, don't they? If you look at pups and kittens and things like that. But they just need sitting down and listening to and talking to like they're an adult, not like an adult, talking to according to their age range, the consequences, and it's not just a girl wearing lads' clothes. It's not, there's more to it than that. Or a lad dressing in girls' clothes. I mean, I used to play with a lad when I was little, that age we were talking about. And he used to nick my dolls and play with them, and my doll's pram, and things like that. Now he's grown. I mean, we're still in touch. We're fabulous friends, but he's gay as well. But my grandma saw it, and she always used to. I mean, my grandma never ever talked about things in public. Well, not to me anyway. But she always used to say to me, "Have you seen his ladyship today?"
Okay, yeah.
But I've seen gay people healed by ministry. So when it comes down to like my other friend who's got the extra chromosome, I mean, I've seen cancer cured, I've seen limbs restored, I've seen quite a few miracles. So why aren't we giving God the chance to sort things like that out? Why aren't churches talking about things like this?
And that's why I brought you, so that we can be talking about some things that are not spoken in public, because sometimes, I don't know whether we are too shy or we are too scared. One thing I know,
we're too scared of the do-gooders.
Yeah, but Equality Acts, for example, Equality Acts 2010 covers 9 protected characteristics. So religion is protected under that. So we can speak about our religious freedoms. At the same time, if those people who I say choose to have gender differences and all that, it's still under that. So if we are categorized as a protected characteristics, then we can talk about these things. And at the end of the day, without disagreeing or falling out, like you said, with love. Yeah? And with love. And maybe from the time a person is a child, to be given the options to really know, because nowadays they're too, like you're saying, they're not innocent. By 5, by 6, children already know too much, okay? So if we talk to them and tell them the reality of all the 9, for example, protected characteristics, maybe they will be understanding. But we are talking about marriage, but one moment marriage is broken. We are talking about sex change, but that sex change, somebody starts at 16, by the time they're 32, they're thinking, oh, I made a mistake, right? So it's really a confusing world for the child. It's really, to me, that's what I think. For children being born now, it's really confusing. So it was okay sometimes to be protected against some things. But at the moment where we are, we can no longer keep quiet. I think we need to start telling them and tell them the truth, you see. Yeah, sex change, for example, is not just sex change. Yeah, it covers all these aspects of spices of life, like I say. The spiritual aspect is there. If you believe in a God, then you're answerable for changing that image. If you believe that the physical structure is created the way it's created, if you become a woman, then that's the woman you become. I know there are people who are born with both sexes, and they don't have a choice again. But there are those people who have a choice to remain as a woman or to remain as a man because the body has dictated that. Okay. When it comes to the intellect, there's quite a lot to know now. Even the biology. Even if you want to tell me about evolution, yes, but there's a knowledge that tells me Esther was born as an Esther, a woman. That's her. I haven't evolved. So I'm not going to be evolving to another thing, okay? If it comes to emotions, how much pain, how much trouble do we go through when we are going through those transitions, those who are going through those transitions? And then what is the end of it in our social relationships? How do we relate with somebody who comes and tells you, oh, I've always been a woman, now I'm a man. Or I have always been this, straight, now I'm gay, you know. It's still difficult to cope with those. But sometimes we deny these things because we don't want to know. We just want to just give people the freedom. Yes, they can have the freedom, but you cannot live on your own like this. We are interdependent. So your changes may affect my life. Your choices might affect my life. So at the end of the day, like now, we've chosen to love. I have chosen to love, and I will love, yeah, whatever the choices people make. Even if they say they don't have a choice, I'll still love them. But again, it will be very difficult at the end of the day, again, to really win over or rather help them in the other aspects that they could be struggling with. So if they're emotionally down, how do we help them? What can we do to really help them? Now, we've been here for an hour about, we've spoken about so many things. And thank you so much for everyone who joined in. We didn't have a look and comment, but thank you so much for joining in. If you have a comment on the basis of what we've been talking about, my desire, my prayer is that we should go back to that heart of a child and be friends with one another, love one another, play with one another the way we used to be. With the heart of a child, because at the end of the day, we are a child of God. And maybe starting from that basis, we can start rebuilding our societies once again. That's where I was coming in with the heart of a child, and I would like really to study the heart of a child. I woke up this morning and I wanted to learn about child development and play. So can we have a life that is more playful than a life that is so much covered with these other things that have come up? And they're emotionally draining, they're spiritually kind of destroying people, they're physically also destroying people, and all these things. What are your last words, last comments? I can see you're really thinking hard, Marie, before we call it an evening. Yeah, what is your last comments before we call it? We can come again and extend this discussion when we have rethought. Today, it was just impromptu, by the way, because I didn't prepare you that much. And I wasn't prepared that much, but we've really talked about a lot. So what are your final remarks?
I was just trying to think what I funnily enough, I was chatting about something similar to this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to think what I'd said to this person, because I thought, oh, that's God-given, and I can't remember what it was now. So never mind.
Yeah. So Maria, as we close today, let's hope and pray that the innocence, it won't be there though, but we can start thinking again of how lovely that place of being a child is, the heart of a child. And maybe on that basis, we can love more, we can play more, and we can accommodate more. Yeah. And with time, we can grow, but grow with a better perspective in life. So thank you so much for joining me. And I'll be inviting you again. We are getting better at technology. And God willing, again and again, we'll be now refining our topics and be able maybe to come and psychoanalyze at the same time, bring some solutions to the lives that could be finding it really difficult in whatever aspect of life. Otherwise, thank you so much. And I'm going to be ending the stream now. And thank you to everyone who joined us today, tonight. And we'll see you another day. This is Marie and this is Esther. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to stop the stream now, Marie, and I will be seeing you another day. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining in, and everyone else who has joined in. So let's end the stream. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let me end the stream.